Nothing says 1v1 like the chill of Sontar, my bros. So today we have a 1v1 with Xiphos and Felkon. Felkon will be playing the Dark Elves versus Xiphos' Wood Elves. Now, this was sent over to me from Felkon because he really wanted to illustrate a lot of things about this build versus this build. So basically, Felkon is playing the Dark Elves against a very, what he, in his way, said that is a very big build for Wood Elves on the multiplayer community. So let's take a look at Xiphos' build and how he went about it. So essentially, let's pause that. That's the wrong button. So essentially, he went with a very, very wide build, utilizing a lot of shields and missile defense against the biggest thing that the Wood Elves have a benefit for, which is missile damage. Now you can see Dread Spears, Bleak Swords all the way down this line. We've got 4 total units of Bleak Swords with 2 units of Dread Spears. Now in addition to that, we see 2 Cold One Knights. These guys, of course, giving anti-large and AP damage, being shielded as well, and having 90 armor. So you're going to need some of the AP missile damage from Wood Elves to do even more damage to them. In addition, we have Slanesh's Harvesters, which are right here, the Regiment of Renown unit of the Doomfire Warlocks. Keep in mind these guys, while not having any kind of missile resistance, they do have a physical resistance of 40%, which is quite huge, and they have access to Word of Pain and Soul Stealer. Now you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Dark Riders with shields, all having bronze shields, bronze being the 35% missile damage resistance. Now, lastly, well, of course, we'll go into the Chill of Sontar as last, but for the Lord, we have Malekith here on a cold one. Now, Felkon wanted me to just really explicitly illustrate that, of course, he has shielded, which is going to give him his 35% block chance for all small arms missile fire, so all the fire that we're going to be seeing from the Wood Elves. But in addition to that, he also gets a native 15% to missile resistance, stacking up to 50. For those of you guys that know a little bit more about the under the hood, you can tell me if that truly does stack up. From what I understand, it actually does, but feel free to correct me in the comments if you think otherwise. In addition, he also gets 50 or 20% physical resistance, and he's got Soul Stealer Soul Stealer in his kit. So Malekith is going to be very durable in this entire fight because he's going to be mitigating 50% of the, or at least a 50% block chance for the actual damage coming through from all the arrows, and then a 20% mitigation of any of that damage coming through, and then Soul Stealer with the ability to heal all of it. Now lastly, we've got a Chill of Sontar here. Now the Chill of Sontar, my bros, is kind of a wild card pick. Felkon chose it because he said he really wanted to take the Chill of Sontar because he likes him a lot. He said if you were not going to take the Chill of Sontar, taking 4 Dark Shards with shields and then 1 or 2 of the Reaper Bolt Throwers is actually the best way to approach this, because then you have a full 20 stack, and your opponent, if he has Way Watchers, any kind of crazy Wood Elf play, has got so many targets to choose from that he can't whittle down your entire army, and you can really grind out the attrition of the Wood Elf missile damage with it. But the Chill of Sontar here does have a nice 35% missile resistance, and he gets regeneration, so he can regenerate a lot of the damage coming his way, especially if he gets kind of routed off the table, he can come back around from it. Now, for Xiphos' build, we'll go ahead and press play now. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 total units of Hawk Riders here. These guys do actually have AP melee damage, not missile damage, but they are quite good at swarming things and taking them down. We see the Glade Lord with Prey of Anathrama access to that, and then the Spellsinger with the typical kind of kit we see here. We're going to see Earthblood, as well as, not Awakening Wood, what one is it? The Dwellers Below, which is the level 6, or I'm sorry, the highest rank spell for the Spellsinger of Life. In addition to that, we're going to see 4 total units of Eternal Guard over here, forming this death box with 3 units of Treekin and the Firebark Elders, the Regiment of Renown unit of the Treekin with fire resistance. So let's see how this fight kind of plays out here. Well, there's so much missile resistance across this entire army. We will be speeding up a little bit here and there because there are kind of some charging back and forth situations, so I want to make sure this has a good flow for you guys, and you don't get too kind of dragged down in the this is a very long fight, so I don't want you to get too dragged down on the monotony of it all. But the big thing here, you can see that a nice little Chill of Sontar breath going out, Prey of Anathrama. Now what Xiphos has done, I'm sorry, what Felkon has done is he's hidden Malekith. He's made it so that Xiphos can't swarm him down immediately. And then what you can see after this is, okay, great. Prey of Anathrama has been tricked off onto Chill of Sontar, reducing his missile resistance by 22%, but he's taking all of his units with all their missile resistance, and he's just coalescing around the Chill of Sontar. He's mitigating a lot of the damage that's coming its way by pretty much spreading it out across all these units, which also have missile resistance. Anything that kind of would hit it or get in the way, these guys can absorb the shot instead and help mitigate and share some of that damage. You can see that this is how Felkon is using all the missile resistance to his advantage by just kind of coagulating, grouping up with the Chill of Sontar as they make their way downfield. Really the big tactic here is keeping everything in as cohesive as a unit as possible, not sending things out one at a time to just kind of break upon this little death box over here, this Death Star. He's keeping as much mitigation as he can across all these units. And that's just something that you're going to be seeing a lot throughout this entire replay, is really using both players' micro to the extreme. They're both taking advantage of so many mechanics going on here that it gets pretty wild. As you can see, again, just kind of trudging through things, using the Cold One Knights and their higher armor to kind of mitigate a lot of the non-AP damage coming out from these Hawk Riders, using the Dark Riders to swarm over them because of the faster speed, the 35% missile resistance as well. A lot of really great plays here. Malekith is coming out here from his little hidey hole, looking to do some damage as they get closer and closer to this Death Star. And again, a lot of this is going to be about not attacking piecemeal. With a force like this, you don't have a lot of elite line here, so you're not going to be able to break this apart by just using your infantry. You have to be very, very strategic in how you engage a Death Star like this. So let's go ahead and get a little fast forward here. Another Prey of Anathrama kicking down here, and damage being shot out across the way. Missile resistance. Now you can see a huge, huge, huge group up here coalescing, mitigating some of that damage, trying to neutralize as much of it as possible. Now, the big thing here is, of course, this is a, what, 2100, 1800, 1900 point unit with the Chill of Sontar, so there is a lot of point investment here, and it is pretty much being burst down before the actual fight. But on that same coin, that damage isn't being mitigated to the rest of this army, which is really going to be the lion's share of the threat to this Death Star. But you can see how Xiphos is just kind of whittling things down, knocking the Chill of Sontar out. It is starting to flee. It is not broken or shattered, so it is quite nice. It can come back from this. But it is fleeing for the most part. Now, let's take a look at this. Soul Stealer has been kicked off to do some damage across the way. Typically, the Eternal Guard in the center portion of this formation, they're going to be able to move to whatever portion is being compromised the most, and you can trick off any kind of big heals by targeting the Eternal Guard. You'll hit the entire Death Star. But it is a dual-edged sword. So Felkon has realized this and has used the Soul Stealer on this portion of the Eternal Guard, it being able to do damage to the entire Death Star here. But he's getting a good little wrap-up, moving his things in position as he goes for to tie the noose around Xiphos' neck. Another Soul Stealer has tripped off, and we see a Gaze of Malice to just rip right through here. Sorry, I fast-forwarded through it on accident. But he did get a nice amount of damage into the center column, and also getting a little bit to the rear and flank as well. But another Earthblood has been tripped off, or I'm sorry, not another Earthblood. The Soul Stealer was able to do so much damage that the Earthblood has had to mitigate a lot of it. You get a nice charge in here onto the anti-large with the Cold One Knights, doing some good damage into them. The AP immediately cycle charging out of that situation, not getting too committed. Felkon was really important, or was really wanted to describe how important it is not to overcommit to this fight, not getting everything just slamming into it and getting them just too exposed in their rear and flank, and having things just being able to be torn apart by these Hawk Riders and by the Dragon Lords. So by doing this, by doing these cycle charges and getting things in an opportunistic situation, you can really kind of control what is being burst down, how things are going. Dwellers Below ripping through here, and Felkon just able to push his Dread Spears out of this, but the majority of it's going to the Slaanesh Harvesters, onto Malekith, who's getting shot by those Hawk Riders as well. But you can see here another Earthblood being tripped off, Prey of Anathrama hitting onto Malekith. Got some nice charging in by these Slaanesh Harvesters, these other Dark Riders. Got a nice little Noxious Breath going down on Malekith as well, trying to get a lot of burst damage in as much as possible. But Danger Ground is being hit by Malekith, get a nice little buff to the melee defense to everything in this area. Soul Stealer as well, mitigating so much damage here. You can see how both Slaanesh Harvesters and Malekith have been able to take a lot of this damage and bring it back towards them by using Soul Stealer to keep them in this fight. And again, here comes Chill of Sontar. That's how that regeneration is coming in here real big, like it, bringing him back up to a full quarter of health to bring right into this huge fight. At a pretty pivotal moment, getting a good Frost Breath down the center line here, hitting into the Tree Kin, right into those Firebark Elders, and the Eternal Guard right in the dead center there. A nice Gaze of Malice ripping through the front into the back here as well. Nice, 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 good damage. Another Earthblood, I think we just missed that, or it was just popped off there. And Murderous Master, Prowess and Mastery, depending on which unit you have, has been tripped off of well, so we're going to see a nice burst damage increase for all the Dark Elves against Xiphos' Wood Elves. So you can see that this fight is going pretty well for Felkon, but it's also going quite well for Xiphos. Slowing this down, you can see Chill of Sontar is pretty low in health and is using his massive size to mitigate a lot of the range fire going in towards Malekith. Malekith, though, is below 50% health. He's had to use Soul Stealer to bring him back up beyond 50 quite a few times. The Glade Lord is dropping in on him, and you can see Xiphos' Spellslinger of Life is fleeing out of this combat. Some good cycle charging here, keeping a lot of continuous pressure, using those charge bonuses of all the cavalry that they have access to. Really, the dual Cold One Knight Slanesh Harvester combo is very strong. I mean, those three alone can take out 3 units of Wild Riders without much problem. And that was, again, something that Felkon wanted to illustrate here, that he built this as a very all-comers list to a lot of the stuff that you deal with when you're dealing with Wood Elves. Felkon was saying that when... we can see the Glade Lord is starting to flee off here. Same thing with the Chill of Sontar. Same thing with the Spellslinger. Everything is coalescing again onto that Glade Lord. This whole entire Dark Elf horde is just rummaging its way over here. Xiphos is going to have to start using his Hawk Riders to try and break up those charges, get this Glade Lord free of some of the damage coming out. He's got Word of Pain triggered onto him from from the Slanesh's Harvesters, reducing his melee attack and accuracy here. And you can see he's just about ready to get out of this, but he's got plenty of Dark Riders swarming his tail, or quite literally his tail, keeping him on the ground. The Hawk Riders coming up and out of that engagement, again looking to just head off as much of the charging that is being done to get his Glade Lord back up into this air. Another unit detaches from this fight, looking to drop down onto these Slanesh's Harvesters and Dark Riders over here, breaking them, actually getting them to start wavering, hopefully to get this Glade Lord back up into the sky so it can mitigate a lot of this damage that's being just done to him. He's being trash canned hard. He is just now getting free, but he is still routing, and off the table he goes. So it is just the Glade Lord, the Hawk Riders, and a lot of this little Slanesh's Harvesters, these units of Dark Riders, have now fled or are going all the way off to the board. Now, the Hawk Riders normally would have had to have landed. In fact, Felkon was saying that he regrets not chasing these guys off. So unfortunately, the Firebark Elders are keeping the Hawk Riders from having to land. And normally in any situation, if you do not have any more land units and you just have air units, you have to land or they will suffer leadership attrition to the point in which they actually run off the table. But you can see here that there's not much to threaten those Hawk Riders if they drop. You've got 2 units of Dread Spears, and you have this unit of Cold One Knights, but they can do quite a little bit of damage here with their remaining ammo left. But again, you can see how Felkon is just kind of dancing Malekith through all of his units here, seeing how he's getting them to all kind of coalesce right over there, just congregate right in this area, absorb some of this damage, have it go into the Bleak Swords. It's a good play here. I think that the Winds of Magic are quite low for Felkon, or else he'd probably do a Soul Stealer to try and mitigate something coming out here, bringing Malekith up quite a bit more in health. I've said mitigate probably about 500 times this entire quick battle, but I'm just going to keep doing it. And again, we can see those Slanesh's Harvesters jumping into this fray as well, getting as much as they can to just kind of spread out that damage. Word of Pain triggered onto those Hawk Riders, reducing their accuracy. These are the ones with the most ammunition here, so this is a good play by Felkon. Xiphos, though, just kind of biding his time, using all of his ammunition. He's got his Treekin over here. He knows he can just kind of hang out, use all the ammunition before he chooses his targets to kind of swarm on the battlefield. He's hoping to get Malekith down, is really what he's looking to do here. Like anyone would want to do, is get rid of those Lords, help mitigate all that damage going out there. When a Hawk Rider drop into these Bleak Swords, doing tons of damage, getting them to start routing off the table here. Malekith trying to just stay with whatever units he can. He's so low in health, 346 here. Standard Ground has been activated, helping out with some melee defense. Looks like he's got a Soul Stealer as well, trying to just trick back just any kind of damage he can. It's just teetering back and forth, bringing him up to 300, 400, 500. Ooh! Back and forth he goes. Alright, these guys are swarming down into a unit of Cold One Knights. A nice, good unit here because those are anti-large and AP. They would have done a lot of damage to these Firebark Elders over there. You can see the Hawk Rider just swarming about, Joe. Just pigeons all over the place, man. Throwing those breadcrumbs, dropping breadcrumb all over those Dark Elves. It's a Dark Eldar. Get a little bit of a speed up going on here on this. And again, he's just trying to keep everything in that center mass. Bringing those Firebark Eldars. And you know what? Maybe Xiphos didn't even realize that they were there for a second. But you can see, I mean, he got down to 300. He's back up to 700. You can see how strong Soul Stealer can be at bringing your health back up. And here it is. Here's the big fight here. We got everything jumping onto the battlefield. It's an all-in engagement right now. You've got these dark spears, dread spears, on the Firebark Eldars, trying to get them down in damage as well. If he does that, then it forces these Hawk Riders to not be able to cyclocharge up into the air anymore. But you can see that, oh, they are swarming so heavily on Malekith. 300 health right now. His Winds of Magic are probably dwindled almost completely. Everything is just kind of shattering across the board. You can see everything's leadership is so low right now. Oh, it's down. It is down to the wire. Hawk Riders are fleeing, dropping things. Dread Spears, Bleak Swords, Malekith, Hawk Riders. Everything is going all over the place. Balance of power, though, is still a little bit in Felkon's favor. Maybe a 60-40 on this one. 1, 2 units of Hawk Riders are fleeing. Dropping in on Malekith here. Oh, man, it is so close. Balance of power bar is ticking forward, though, because, again, remember, balance of power is influenced by the health of units, not just simply what's on the field of battle. So as all these units get degraded by getting killed off, you can see the balance of power is actually shifting in Felkon's favor more and more as things come back and forth from fighting, even though there are, I believe, some of these cause fear. Yeah, just the Firebark Eldars cause fear. And with the Firebark Eldars being shattered now, army losses is kicking in across the entire Wood Elf army, and a Pyrrhic victory for Felkon. Whew, just barely pulls that one out there. Like I was saying, Felkon said when I know it says hi Philip, but I promise it's Felkon. Felkon was saying when the battlefield was like revealed and he saw what Xiphos was using, he got initially very frustrated. He looked at his army and said, it's not going to be as ideal against fighting what he's dealing with as much of the air superiority that the Wood Elves have brought. Even if the Dark Elves had gone with an air superiority build using a Black Dragon, Malekith on Seraphon, and some Harpies, unfortunately Xiphos' build would have beat this out. He would have been able to shoot down the Harpies. All the AP damage from all the Hawk Riders would have been able to mitigate and do a lot more damage to the Black Dragon, and eventually dumpster and Prey off Thrama Malekith. So, unfortunately, even though Xiphos was really struggling uphill this entire fight, he did pull it out, and he was saying he wanted to showcase that this build, the Wood Elf build that he dealt with, is not the scariest thing. You can defeat it by going wide, by stacking as much missile resistance, by getting your units to share that damage, by getting your ability to just kind of micro through your own units to have all those arrows plink into some of your lesser cost line infantry. Is a great way to mitigate so much of that damage coming out from the Wood Elves. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this fight here today. Make sure you go check out Xiphos and Felkon. I believe that Felkon has a Twitch. I'll ask him, and I'll put any kind of relevant links to their relevant channels in the comments below. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.